Mark Gurman only drops bombs. He only drops bombs. There's a reason we had him on the Waveform podcast, and there's a reason we had him on the channel to talk about the future of the iPhone, possibly not having ports. There's only one person I trust at this level with this sort of reporting at this moment, and it's Mark Gurman. So on Friday, chill Friday afternoon, he dropped several bombs with a lot of information, and this is all still technically rumors, but about sort of the alleged products and things that Apple is working on for the next year or so, 2021. And I'm just going to warn you right off the top, a lot of it is too good to be true. A lot of it sounds too good to be true. So I'm just going to preface the whole thing with that. You know, it's a very reliable source, but I wouldn't bet my happiness entirely on it. But I'm just saying, there's a lot of good stuff. So I just figured I would go through this stuff one by one and sort of break it down on what the rumor is, and then my reaction and maybe some extra details and hopes and dreams I might have. So let's just buckle up, and as Philip DeFranco would say, let's just jump right into it. So okay, let's start with the laptops. We already have, of course, all of the new Apple Silicon stuff happening over the course of the next year or two. There's rumors of an alleged new 14-inch and 16-inch MacBook Pro in the works with Apple Silicon, and there's a couple parts to this. So first of all, this would be our first look at a new upgraded Apple Silicon in a higher end Mac than just the baseline. They started at the baseline with the MacBook Air and the MacBook Pro that I love so dearly and have raved about, and that many people have. But this would be our first look at a higher end version in the machines that typically have a dedicated GPU. See, as good as these M1 Macs have been, they are really good at replacing the baseline models that didn't need GPUs. The 16-inch MacBook Pro, currently with an Intel chip, still destroys the M1 Macs in the GPU department. So if you need heavy graphics computing, you still need to get a Mac with a dedicated GPU. So when these come out, this will be our first look at whether they just build a massive integrated GPU in, or they continue to support discrete GPUs. It'll be a first chance to see how they do that. Then number two, they will have similar designs, but a little more squared off potentially, and then with new displays that are both brighter and higher contrast. Now, when I read this, I read micro LED. So we've been waiting to see micro LED in a lot of their higher end displays for a little bit now. I think the iPad Pro comes to mind right away because they've had an OLED iPhone, and they haven't switched to an OLED iPad, but micro LED is about as close as it gets to OLED without actually going OLED, with each individual pixel is its own light source. With micro LED, you have a lot of tiny local dimming zones, and that equivalates to, much deeper blacks and much less glowing and blooming and things like that. So it's almost OLED. And I think it makes sense to see this sort of stuff in the high-end versions with all the HDR push we've seen lately. I would actually have to just say I've been considering moving to an HDR workflow on this channel for a while now. The Pro Display XDR supports it. YouTube supports it. These cameras support it. It's just getting everything together in one pipeline that works. That is a challenge, but it makes sense. And I'd be looking forward to some pretty sweet displays here. But then number three, for these laptops, the rumor indicates the return of MagSafe charging, where it all started. MagSafe. This would be a pleasant surprise for me. I'm sure a lot of you remember the original MagSafe, which was like this little pill-shaped port, which was just for charging, but it was magnets and it was safe. That's just what it was for. So if you kicked the cable out the side of the laptop when tripping over it, it would just fall out the side and the laptop wouldn't crash with it. Now, with the MagSafe that we have in the new iPhones, it's a magnet, yes, but it's not quite as safe as the old MagSafe. You could still rip the whole phone off the desk if you trip over the cable. But I'm looking forward to seeing a new version of MagSafe back in the laptops. And the rumor says it should enable some sort of faster charging, which sounds pretty sweet. But I imagine they will also still have a bunch of USB-C ports on the sides of the laptop. So if you do still want to use one cable to charge everything, which I'm kind of close to being able to do now, you should still be able to do that. But I think the MagSafe way will be the cool way and the faster way. And then last but not least with these rumored new MacBook Pros is no touch bar. To which I say good riddance, but it was kind of really interesting to see. I tweeted about this, and first of all, it's kind of funny that all of these new rumors kind of feel like we're just going backwards to like the 2015 MacBook Pro. Old keyboards, get rid of the touch bar, bring MagSafe back, which is great. But On the touch bar, it seemed very polarizing. So I'd say about 75% of my replies were saying, great, good riddance, get rid of it. There was nothing good about the touch bar, never used it, hated it. And then maybe 20% of people were kind of indifferent, like, oh, no more touch bar, fine, I won't miss it, but all right. And then 5% or so of people loved the touch bar and really wanted to keep it and are like sad to see it go, which is interesting. I don't know if the display or the discrepancy would be quite the same among all users, but it's just funny in my replies. Maybe let me know in the comments which group you're in. For me, I didn't really like the touch bar that much. It's fine, but it didn't really ever live up to the potential that it had. And so I'm sure to get rid of extra cost, getting rid of the touch bar is a no-brainer. But anyway, that's the high-end laptops. Overall, seems like a pretty sweet start. Then let's talk about the desktops. And let's start with the iMac. So the rumor is the new iMac design is right around the corner. So the iMac design, I've said this for a while. You can watch my review on the last Intel iMac. The design, it's fine, but it is old. It's got big bezels, top, sides, bottom, huge chin, and it's just not quite in the aesthetic of the current Apple design. So the rumor is we'll have an iMac come out that looks a lot like the Pro Display XDR, which is to say boxier, much thinner bezels, and a little more clean looking. And so they will, of course, also have the new Apple Silicon, and again, high-end desktop stuff. So that begs the question still about GPU support, what that situation will look like. And I am kind of thinking low-key, this may be one of the more important computers that they're working on with Apple Silicon. We already know most Mac users are using Mac laptops, but they have the Mac Mini, the iMac, and the Mac Pro. Those are their entire desktop lineup. So the iMac ends up being where a lot of people fall who just want an all-in-one. And I think they gotta get it right. I think they know that, but they really want to nail that as far as value and performance to sort of dominate the all-in-one category. So this isn't even in the rumors, but I'm kind of hoping for things like an SD card slot to still be there on the side, a couple of ports on the side instead of the back. The ports on the back of the monitor, it's good to have them, but the iMac, I just got tired of reaching around back here so often. I would have loved to see some stuff on the side, but that's not in the rumors. That's just me hoping for stuff. We'll see what they do. But then last but not least, there is a new Mac Pro rumor in here among all of Mark's reporting. And see, the Mac Pro that we already got was, it's got the Intel chip and everything, but that was also already a very long time anticipated product. The Mac Pro was very questionable about, this just trash can design, these thermals. Are they not like caring about the Pro market anymore? When they finally dropped this Mac Pro, we all went, oh, okay, they're still up to it. There's still some good stuff here. But now, apparently, Apple is working on an Apple Silicon Mac Pro that's less than half of the size of the current Mac Pro and is sort of nostalgic for the Power Mac G4 Cube. So if anyone remembers what the Power Mac G4 Cube looked like, that sort of size and shape in a new Apple Silicon Mac Pro. Now, hearing that, I have so many questions, so many more speculative thoughts bouncing around my head, but I think the main one is this form factor supposed to be better than the current Intel Mac Pro, or just a cheaper version of an Apple Silicon desktop, like somewhere between the Mac Mini and the Intel Mac Pro? Is it supposed to be above the top of the range or somewhere in the middle? That's the main question. Now, as I speculate all this, there's also mention of a new display that is a lower priced version of the Pro Display XDR. So an external monitor that's not nearly as expensive as this. I guess it will be a $6,000 monitor with a $1,000 stand, infamously. And that makes me think it will launch alongside this newer, smaller Mac Pro, and that they will both be cheaper than their currently existing counterparts. Does that make sense? So Apple gets back into the Pro desktop market with a way too expensive for most people and way overkill for most people Intel Mac Pro and Pro Display XDR, but then can leverage their cachet, can leverage their tech, and build something awesome in a smaller box that they can still call a Mac Pro, but that now has Apple Silicon, that now has better thermals, that now has hopefully great graphics, and is cheaper than the current extremely expensive Mac Pro. Anyway, that is definitely what the creative inside of me is most excited to see. Because like I said, when we first saw these new Macs with Apple Silicon, I immediately went to the top. I was like, what does the fully unlocked best version of this look like? And it looks like that Mac will be it. We'll see. Oh, and then some iPhone stuff. We all probably already know Apple makes iPhones. They're a bit of an iPhone and accessories company. So allegedly this year was basically an S year for the iPhone, which is about what we expected, meaning a bunch of minor updates, nothing too crazy. Now, the main change they're working on is an in-display fingerprint reader, and knowing how many years we've had these around and how much better they've slowly gotten, I'm not shocked by this. I'm just kind of bracing myself for that to be an excuse to get rid of something else. I don't know what that other thing will be, but I've made an entire video about the port situation. Now, there's no mention in here in this article of any high refresh rate display. And I'm not sure it would even be worth mentioning. Like, it's such a common accepted feature at this point that it's kind of weird that the iPhone doesn't have one. I really hope the iPhone 13 or 12S, whatever it's called, does have 120 hertz display alongside the iPad and as many other things as they can, but it's not mentioned, so that's worth mentioning. But I'll just say, you should definitely watch that entire video I did with Mark Gurman on the idea of a portless iPhone and how realistic it may be that the next iPhone that comes out has no ports. I'll link it below. One other thing is mentioned that Apple's working on a foldable iPhone. Now, this is not a next year or so thing. This is a thing they've been in the background working on. I imagine there's prototypes floating around Apple campus, actually probably locked in a room downstairs somewhere, but we probably won't see an iPhone fold anytime soon. It's just curious that the alternate form factor universe has been expanding and growing and turning into something really interesting. And I look forward to the day Apple joins in and, to a lot of people, legitimizes that whole space, because we've got foldable phones, we've got rolling stuff, we've got swiveling stuff. And I think the day Apple joins that, we start to see a lot more. But that's coming in the future. Apparently, they also do plan to launch AirTags sometime this year. We just saw an equivalent from Samsung that works with Samsung Galaxy phones. I think that's a missed opportunity. I think they could have made something that works with as many things as possible and just works best with Galaxy phones, but expect that, I think, sometime this year. And also, Mark mentions a much faster iPad Pro with mini LED, which it's hard to imagine an iPad Pro much faster. It's already leaps and bounds ahead of a lot of other tablets, but I think the big innovation will be mini LED. We've wanted that thing to go OLED for so long. Mini LED, again, like I said, is as close to that as we can pretty much get right now. Nice. I'm just going to throw in one more thing for fun. This isn't part of Mark Gurman's series of leak bombs, but apparently Apple is researching a new light-absorbing black finish for MacBooks, which I gotta say, I really like the way the icon skin looks on the back of my MacBook Pro right now, but also matte black laptops. Can we bring those back, Apple? You used to do it. You could do it again. But anyway, that is pretty much it. Like I said, it's a lot to take in. There's new laptop stuff, there's new iMac stuff, there's new desktop stuff, and there's new iPhone stuff all in here. I'm going to leave all the links below if you want to check that out and read the full articles. Shout out to Mark Gurman again for his reporting over the years. But I'm curious what you're most interested in. For me, it's that Mac Pro, I should say. But for you, let me know in the comments. RIP Touch Bar. Thanks for watching. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace.